The lights of Blackwater Drift flickered in the endless dark of space like dying stars. Captain Dae-sung stepped off the boarding ramp of his ship and into the crowded station corridor. The air smelled of oil, burnt metal, and something he could not name. Aliens of every shape and size moved past him. Some had scales, others had tentacles, and a few looked almost human, but with eyes that glowed in the dim light. Dae-sung kept his hand near his weapon as he walked. Blackwater Drift was not a safe place. It was where criminals came to do business, where smugglers sold stolen goods, and where people who asked too many questions disappeared forever. But it was also where a man could find work when no one else would hire him. His ship, the Iron Sparrow, needed repairs. The fuel cells were dying. The life support system made strange noises, and the hull had more patches than original metal. He needed money, and he needed it fast. He made his way to the deep end, a bar that sat in the lowest level of the station. The music was loud and the crowd was rough. Dae-sung pushed through the mass of bodies until he found an empty seat at the bar. He ordered a drink and waited. Captain Dae-sung. The voice came from behind him, low and hissing like steam escaping from a broken pipe. Dae-sung turned slowly. A tall reptilian creature stood there, its scales a deep green that shimmered under the bar lights. It wore expensive armor and had too many eyes. This was Vekshar, one of the most powerful crime lords in this sector of space. Vekshar, Dae-sung said carefully. What do you want? I have a job for you, Vekshar said. His long tongue flicked out between sharp teeth. A transport job. Very simple, very profitable. Dae-sung knew better than to trust simple jobs from crime lords. What am I transporting? A creature, Vekshar said. A rare specimen. Very valuable. I need it delivered to Cross Prime in 10 days. What kind of creature? Vekshar's many eyes seemed to gleam with something like greed. A void worm, one of the last of its kind. The arenas on Cross Prime will pay a fortune to watch it fight. Dae-sung felt his stomach turn. He had heard stories about void worms. Ancient beings, powerful and intelligent, hunted almost to extinction. Most people thought they were myths. Legends told to scare children. If it's so valuable, why hire me? You have better pilots. Because the Dominion has an interest in this creature, Vekshar said quietly. They would take it from me if they knew. But you, Captain, you are good at staying invisible. You know the old routes, the forgotten paths. You can avoid their patrols. Dae-sung should have walked away. Every instinct told him this job was dangerous. But when Vekshar named the price, he stopped thinking about danger. That much money would fix his ship, buy fuel for a year, maybe even let him retire somewhere quiet. Let me see it first, Dae-sung said. Vekshar smiled, showing too many teeth. Follow me. They left the bar and traveled deeper into the station, past the markets and living quarters, down into the cargo levels where the air grew cold and the lights became sparse. Vekshar led him to a massive cargo bay guarded by armed soldiers. They stepped aside as Vekshar approached. Inside the bay, in the center of the empty space, was a containment cell. Energy barriers hummed around it, crackling with blue light. And inside the cell was the void worm. Dae-sung had never seen anything like it. The creature was enormous, easily 3 times his height even while lying down. Its scales were black as deep space and seemed to absorb the light around them. Its body was long and serpentine with 4 powerful legs ending in claws that could tear through steel. Massive wings lay folded against its sides, but it was the creature's eyes that made Dae-sung stop breathing for a moment. They burned like stars, bright and fierce, filled with an intelligence that seemed almost human. Those eyes turned toward him, and Dae-sung felt like he was being measured, judged, understood in a way that made him deeply uncomfortable. The void worm was wrapped in chains, not ordinary chains, but quantum-dampening shackles that glowed with a sickly green light. They covered its legs, its wings, its long neck. A metal muzzle was clamped over its jaws. Despite all these restraints, the creature radiated power, like a storm barely contained. It's been subdued, Vekshar said. The chains suppress its abilities. It cannot escape, cannot fight back. All you need to do is load it onto your ship and deliver it to Cross Prime. It looks intelligent, Dae-sung said quietly. It's an animal, Vekshar snapped. A dangerous animal, but an animal nonetheless. Do not let its appearance fool you. But Dae-sung could not shake the feeling that those eyes held something more than animal cunning. He watched as the void worm continued to stare at him, unblinking, silent. Do we have a deal? Vekshar asked. Dae-sung thought about his ship, about the repairs it needed, about the empty feeling in his stomach that came from eating ration bars for weeks. He thought about the money. We have a deal, he said. 2 hours later, the Void Worm was being loaded onto the Iron Sparrow. Daesung's crew watched nervously as the containment cell was secured in the cargo hold. Bora, his engineer, was a small woman with sharp eyes and grease under her fingernails. She looked at the creature and shook her head. "This is a terrible idea," she said. "We need the money," Daesung replied. "We always need money. That doesn't mean we should transport a monster across half the galaxy." Taemin, their young navigator, peered into the cargo hold with wide eyes. "Is it really a void worm? I thought they were extinct." "Apparently not," Daesung said. The containment cell was locked into place with heavy magnetic clamps. The energy barriers around the void worm hummed at full power. The creature had not moved during the entire loading process. It simply watched them with those burning eyes. "Run a full diagnostic on the containment system," Daesung ordered Bora. "I want triple redundancy on those energy barriers." "Already on it," Bora muttered, heading toward the engine room. Daesung stood at the entrance to the cargo hold for a long moment, looking at their passenger. The void worm's gaze met his, and again he felt that strange sensation of being understood, of being seen in a way that went deeper than simple observation. 10 days, he said quietly, though he was not sure if he was talking to the creature or to himself. 10 days and this will all be over. The void worm said nothing. It could not speak with the muzzle locked over its jaws, but its eyes seemed to say everything. Daesung turned away and climbed the ladder to the main deck. Taemin was already at the navigation console, plotting their course to cross Prime. Bora returned from her inspection and gave him a thumbs up. The containment system was secure. "Take us out," Daesung said, settling into the captain's chair. The Iron Sparrow's engines rumbled to life. The old ship groaned and creaked as it always did, but it moved. Slowly they pulled away from Blackwater Drift and headed into the vast emptiness of space. Behind them, in the cargo hold, the void worm watched through the energy barriers of its cell. Its eyes burned in the darkness, patient and waiting. The journey had begun. 3 days into the journey, the Iron Sparrow drifted through empty space like a piece of forgotten metal. Daesung sat in the captain's chair watching the stars slide past on the view screen. Everything seemed normal. Too normal, perhaps. The ship's systems had been acting strange since they left Blackwater Drift. Small things at first. Lights flickering in empty corridors. The temperature controls adjusting themselves. The communications array picking up signals that made no sense, just static and strange pulses that followed no pattern. Bora insisted it was electromagnetic interference from the quantum chains in the cargo hold. She had run diagnostics 3 times and found nothing wrong with the ship's systems. But Taemin was not convinced, and neither was Daesung. "It feels like the ship is haunted," Taemin said one morning over breakfast. He pushed his ration bar around his plate without eating it. "Ships don't get haunted," Bora said, but she did not sound sure. Daesung said nothing. He had been having dreams, strange and vivid. Dreams of flying through stars, of worlds burning, of chains and darkness. He woke up each morning with the taste of smoke in his mouth, and the feeling that someone had been watching him sleep. On the 4th night, he could not sleep at all. He lay in his bunk staring at the metal ceiling, listening to the constant hum of the ship's engines. Finally, he gave up and climbed out of bed. He dressed and made his way through the quiet corridors. His feet carried him down to the cargo hold before he realized where he was going. The hold was cold and dark except for the blue glow of the energy barriers around the containment cell. Daesung stood at the entrance for a moment, his hand on the doorframe. He should turn around, go back to bed, forget about the creature in the cage. But he stepped inside instead. The void worm was awake. Its massive form filled the containment cell, scales gleaming in the dim light. Those burning eyes turned toward him immediately, and Daesung felt the now familiar sensation of being studied, measured, understood. He walked closer to the cell, stopping just outside the range of the energy barriers. The creature shifted slightly, its chains rattling with the movement. It was so large, so powerful, and yet completely helpless inside its prison. "Can you understand me?" Daesung asked quietly. The void worm tilted its head slightly, watching him. Then something happened that made Daesung's blood turn cold. A voice spoke inside his mind. Not through his ears, but directly into his thoughts, clear and strong and undeniable. "Yes." Daesung stumbled backward, his heart hammering in his chest. He looked around the empty cargo hold, but there was no one else there. Just him and the creature in the cage. "Do not be afraid," the voice said. "I will not harm you." You're in my head, Daesung whispered. Telepathy, the voice explained. My kind has always possessed this ability. The muzzle silences my voice, but it cannot silence my mind. Daesung's hands were shaking. He had carried strange cargo before, but nothing had ever spoken to him telepathically. Nothing had ever reached into his mind like this. What are you? He asked. My name is Hyunwoo, the voice said. I am one of the last void worms, and you are carrying me to my death. You're going to the arenas on Cross Prime, Daesung said. To fight. To die, Hyunwoo corrected. The arenas are a place of slaughter, not combat. I will be pitted against weapons and creatures designed to kill me slowly, for the entertainment of crowds. This is what awaits me at the end of your journey. Daesung felt something twist in his stomach. He had tried not to think about what would happen to the void worm after delivery. It was easier that way. Easier to see it as cargo, as a job, as a means to get paid. I'm just the transport, he said, but the words felt hollow. You are a slaver, Hyunwoo said simply. Not through choice, perhaps, but through action. You carry a sentient being in chains to be sold for profit. What else would you call yourself? You're an animal, Daesung said, but he could not put conviction in his voice. Not when that intelligent gaze was fixed on him. Not when that voice spoke so clearly in his mind. Is that what you truly believe? Hyunwoo asked. Look at me, human. Look into my eyes and tell me you see nothing but an animal. Daesung looked. He looked at the creature before him, at the way it held itself with dignity despite the chains, at the intelligence burning in those star-bright eyes, and he knew deep in his bones that this was no animal. What do you want from me? He asked quietly. I want you to understand, Hyunwoo said. My people were guardians once. We protected worlds, watched over civilizations, kept the balance between order and chaos. But we refused to bow to the galactic dominion. We would not surrender our freedom, would not become servants to their empire. So they hunted you. They destroyed us, Hyunwoo said, and for the first time, Daesung heard emotion in that mental voice. Grief old and deep. They burned our worlds, killed our young, scattered the survivors across the galaxy. They called it bringing peace. They called it maintaining order. But it was genocide, plain and simple. Daesung had heard the Dominion's version of history his entire life. They brought civilization to savage worlds. They united the galaxy under one banner. They ended the wars and brought peace. But looking at Hyunwoo, he wondered for the first time if that history was a lie. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because you deserve to know the truth, Hyunwoo said. Your people, humanity. You are being used just as my people were. The Dominion values you only as workers and soldiers. They keep you dependent on their technology, their systems, their control. You could be so much more, but they will never allow it. That's not true, Daesung said. Humans are part of the Dominion. We're citizens. You are servants, Hyunwoo said quietly. Given just enough freedom to feel grateful. Just enough power to feel important, but never enough to truly choose your own path. Tell me, human, when was the last time your people developed their own technology? When did you last build something that the Dominion did not provide? Daesung opened his mouth to argue, but no words came. Because Hyunwoo was right. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology humanity used came from the Dominion or was built using Dominion designs. Humans were good at maintaining things, at piloting ships, at fighting wars. But they never invented. They never created. They never advanced beyond what they were given. I have a job to do, Daesung said finally. I can't afford to care about politics or history. I need the money from this delivery. I understand, Hyunwoo said. Survival is important. But consider this, human. If you deliver me to my death, what does that make you? Will the money ease your conscience? Will it help you sleep at night, knowing you sold a thinking being into torture for profit? Daesung turned away from the cell. His head was spinning, his thoughts a confused mess. He needed to leave. To get away from that voice in his mind, from those questions he did not want to answer. I'm sorry, he said, and he was not sure what he was apologizing for. I have to go. I will be here, Hyunwoo said. If you wish to speak again, I will listen. Daesung left the cargo hold and climbed back up to the main deck. He went to the galley and poured himself a drink, something strong that burned going down. His hands were still shaking. Bora found him there an hour later. She sat down across from him without saying anything for a long moment. You went to see it, didn't she? She asked finally. It has a name, Daesung said. Hyunwoo. Bora's eyes widened. It talked to you? Telepathy. Daesung took another drink. It's intelligent, Bora. As smart as you or me. Maybe smarter. That doesn't change anything, Bora said, but her voice was uncertain. We have a contract. We need the money. I know. Daesung stared at his empty glass. I know. But that night he dreamed again. He dreamed of stars and freedom, of wings cutting through the void, of a roar that shook the foundations of the universe. And when he woke, he found himself wondering what it would be like to be truly free. In the cargo hold below, Hyunwoo waited in the darkness, patient and watching, his eyes burning like captured stars. The days that followed were strange and tense. Daesung found himself returning to the cargo hold more often than he intended. Sometimes he would just stand there watching Hyunwoo in silence. Other times they would talk, the void worm's voice speaking directly into his mind while the rest of the ship slept. Hyunwoo told him stories of the old times, before the Dominion rose to power. Stories of worlds where different species lived together without one ruling over the others. Stories of freedom, of choice, of possibilities that seemed like dreams now. Bora noticed the change in him. She cornered him one morning in the engine room, her face tight with worry. You're getting attached, she said. That's dangerous, Captain. I'm just talking to it, Daesung said. What's the harm? The harm is that you're starting to care, Bora said. And when you care, you make bad decisions. We need this money, Daesung. The ship is falling apart. We have debts. We can't afford to let emotions get in the way. I know, Daesung said quietly. But knowing and feeling were two different things. Every conversation with Hyunwoo planted more doubts in his mind. Every story made him question what he had always believed about the galaxy and humanity's place in it. On the seventh day, as they passed through the Helios corridor, the ship's alarms began to scream. Daesung rushed to the bridge. With Bora and Taemin right behind him, the view screen showed 3 large ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly in their path. Sleek, powerful vessels with the distinctive markings of the Galactic Dominion. Patrol fleet, Taemin said, his voice tight with fear. They're hailing us. Put them through, Daesung ordered. The view screen flickered and showed a Dominion officer, a tall alien with blue skin and cold, calculating eyes. It wore the uniform of a commander, decorated with medals and rank insignia. Vessel Iron Sparrow. This is Commander Reltok of the Dominion Patrol Fleet. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Daesung forced himself to stay calm. Commander, we're just a cargo ship on a routine delivery. Is there a problem? We have reports that you are transporting illegal cargo, Reltok said. Specifically a void worm designated as a war criminal. You will surrender the creature immediately. War criminal. The words hung in the air like poison. Daesung glanced at Bora, who looked as shocked as he felt. I don't know what you're talking about, Daesung said. We're carrying legitimate cargo with proper documentation. Your documentation is false, Reltok said coldly. The creature you carry is a remnant of a failed rebellion against Dominion authority. It is wanted for crimes against the state. You have 10 seconds to comply or we will open fire. Daesung's mind raced. This was not a random patrol. They had been waiting for the Iron Sparrow, had known exactly where to find them. Someone had sold them out, Fekshar perhaps, or one of his people. We need more time to verify your claims, Daesung said, stalling. 5 seconds, Reltok said. Daesung cut the communication and turned to his crew. Battle stations. Bora, get maximum power to the shields. Taemin, plot us a jump to faster-than-light speed anywhere, I don't care where. We can't outrun them, Bora said. They're military vessels. They'll blow us apart before we can charge the jump drive. She was right. The Iron Sparrow was old and barely functional. Against 3 Dominion patrol ships, they had no chance. Unless Daesung ran from the bridge moving faster than he had in years. He took the ladder down to the cargo hold 3 rungs at a time, nearly falling in his haste. Behind him, he could hear the ship's hull groaning as the Dominion vessels opened fire. Warning shots, but the next ones would not miss. He burst into the cargo hold. Hyunwoo was standing now as much as the chains would allow, eyes blazing with that inner fire. They have come for me, the void worm said. They're going to kill us all, Daesung said. You, me, my crew? They don't care about anything except taking you. Then let them take me, Hyunwoo said. I will not let others die for my sake. That's not going to happen, Daesung said. He moved to the control panel for the containment cell, his hands flying over the buttons. I'm going to ask you a question, and I need an honest answer. Ask, if I release you, can you fight? Can you protect this ship? There was a moment of silence in his mind. Then Hyunwoo spoke, and his voice was like distant thunder. Give me freedom, human, and I will show you what a dragon can do. Dae-sung took a deep breath. This was it, the moment where everything changed. If he pressed this button, there was no going back. He would be a criminal, an enemy of the Dominion, a man with no home and no future. But if he did nothing, they would all die anyway. He pressed the button. The quantum chains fell away with a sound like breaking glass. The muzzle unlocked and clattered to the floor. The energy barriers shut down, and Hyunwoo was free. The change was immediate and terrifying. Hyunwoo's body seemed to expand, scales gleaming with an inner light that had nothing to do with the cargo hold's dim lighting. Energy crackled around him, raw and powerful, the kind of force that had been suppressed by the chains for weeks. His wings unfurled, massive and terrible, filling the entire cargo hold. Dae-sung stumbled backward as Hyunwoo threw back his head and roared. The sound was beyond description. It was not just noise, but power made audible, fury given voice, defiance that shook reality itself. The roar echoed through the ship, through space itself, a sound that seemed to say, I am here, I am free, I will not bow. Then Hyunwoo moved. He lunged forward, his claws tearing through the cargo bay doors like they were made of paper. Atmosphere rushed out into space, but Hyunwoo was already gone, launching himself into the void with wings that caught starlight. Dae-sung grabbed onto a support beam as the emergency bulkhead slammed down, sealing the breach. He could see through the small window what was happening outside, and it was like watching a force of nature unleashed. Hyunwoo was massive in the emptiness of space, but he moved with impossible grace. The Dominion ships had expected an easy capture, a helpless prisoner in chains. What they got instead was a living nightmare. The Void Worm dove toward the nearest patrol ship, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. Energy blasts from the ship's weapons lit up the darkness, but Hyunwoo weaved between them like they were standing still. He crashed into the ship's hull with his claws extended, tearing through armor plating and exposing the delicate systems beneath. The ship tried to shake him off, but Hyunwoo clung to it like a parasite. His jaws opened and fire poured out. Not normal fire, but something else, something that burned with the heat of stars. Metal melted and twisted. The ship's engines exploded in a cascade of light and debris. The other two ships opened fire, but Hyunwoo was already moving. He leaped from the dying vessel and spread his wings, using them to change direction in ways that should have been impossible in the vacuum of space. He flew straight toward the second ship, his body glowing with that same inner fire. On the bridge of the Iron Sparrow, Taemin watched the view screen with his mouth hanging open. What is that thing? He whispered. That's a void worm without chains, Bora said quietly. That's what we've been keeping locked up in our cargo hold. The second Dominion ship tried to retreat, but it was too slow. Hyunwoo caught it, his claws sinking into the hull near the bridge. Through the view screen, Dae-sung could see the tiny figures of crew members being thrown around inside as Hyunwoo shook the ship like a toy. The third ship decided it had seen enough. It turned and jumped to faster-than-light speed, abandoning its companions to their fate. Hyunwoo released the second ship and watched it drift, crippled and broken. Then he turned his attention to the first vessel, which was still burning. He flew to it and, with casual precision, tore out its remaining power core. The explosion that followed lit up space like a small sun. Then, as quickly as it had begun, it was over. Hyunwoo floated in the debris field of the destroyed ships, his wings spread wide, his body still glowing with power. He looked like something from ancient mythology, a god of destruction and freedom, beautiful and terrible. Slowly, he turned and flew back toward the Iron Sparrow. He landed on the hull with surprising gentleness, his claws finding purchase on the metal plating. He crawled along the outside of the ship until he reached the cargo hold, where the emergency bulkhead had sealed the breach he had made. Let me in, his voice spoke in Dae-sung's mind. Dae-sung moved to the controls on shaking legs. He opened the outer airlock and Hyunwoo crawled inside. When the inner door sealed and the atmosphere returned, the void worm folded his wings and looked at Dae-sung with those burning eyes. Thank you, Hyunwoo said simply. Dae-sung leaned against the wall, his heart still racing. What have I done? He whispered. You have chosen freedom over safety, Hyunwoo said. You have made yourself an enemy of the Dominion. Your old life is over. I know, Dae-sung said. And strangely, he felt no regret. only a wild, reckless relief. On the bridge, alarms were still blaring. Bora and Taemin stared at him as he climbed up from the cargo hold. "Well," Bora said, her voice carefully neutral, "I guess we're not making that delivery to Cross Prime." Daesung laughed. It was a desperate, slightly hysterical sound, but it was genuine. No, I don't think we are. So what do we do now?" Taemin asked. Daesung looked at his crew, at these people who had followed him through years of dangerous jobs and impossible situations. They deserved to know what they were getting into. "The Dominion will hunt us," he said. "We're criminals now, traitors. There's no going back to the life we had." Bora crossed her arms. "I always hated that life anyway." "What's the alternative?" Daesung smiled. "We find out the truth. We find out what else the Dominion has been lying about. And maybe if we're lucky, we find a way to fight back." Taemin nodded slowly. "I'm in." Bora sighed. "This is insane. Completely insane." She looked at Daesung and grinned. "But I'm in too." Below them in the cargo hold, Hyunwoo listened to their words and felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. The Iron Sparrow limped through the outer edges of known space, where the stars grew sparse and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides. They had abandoned all their old routes, all their familiar ports of call. Every station where Daesung had contacts, every planet where he had done business, all of it was now dangerous territory. The Dominion had put a bounty on their heads. A large one. Daesung had seen the wanted posters transmitted across every public channel. His face, Bora's face, Taemin's face, all labeled as terrorists and traitors. The crime, aiding a known enemy of the state and destroying Dominion property. They had been running for 2 weeks now, jumping from system to system, never staying in one place long enough to be tracked. The ship was holding together through Bora's constant repairs and what seemed like pure stubbornness. Food was running low, fuel was getting scarce, and everyone was tired. But Hyunwoo had not been idle during their flight. The Void Worm spent long hours with Daesung in the cargo hold, speaking mind to mind, revealing truths that made the captain's blood boil. The Dominion's deception went deeper than Daesung had ever imagined. "You're faster than light drives," Hyunwoo explained one night. "They were given to humanity by the Dominion. But what you do not know is that every single drive has a built-in kill switch. If humans ever displease their masters, the Dominion can shut down every human ship in the galaxy with a single command." "That's impossible," Daesung said. "We've had engineers study those drives for decades, have you?" Hyunwoo asked. "Or have you only studied what the Dominion allowed you to study?" "The kill switches are hidden in code so complex that no human could find them without knowing they exist. You have been given a gift that is also a leash." Daesung thought about every human ship, every colony transport, every military vessel, all of them dependent on Dominion technology, all of them vulnerable. What about weapons, medical technology? Everything else? "The same," Hyunwoo said. "Humanity is strong, resourceful, and clever, but you have been kept dependent, kept under control, never allowed to develop your own path. The Dominion fears what you could become if you were truly free." "Why?" Daesung asked. "Why would they fear us?" Hyunwoo's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Because humans are dangerous in a way the Dominion does not fully understand. You adapt faster than any other species. You survive conditions that would kill others. You are creative and unpredictable. Given freedom and time, humanity could surpass the Dominion itself. So they keep you controlled, keep you grateful for scraps, keep you believing you are part of their empire when you are merely their tools." The words settled in Daesung's chest like stones. Everything he had believed about humanity's place in the galaxy had been a lie. They were not partners in a great civilization. They were slaves who did not know they wore chains. "We need proof," he said finally. "If we're going to change anything, we need evidence that people will believe." "There is a place," Hyunwoo said. "A Dominion research station, abandoned now, orbiting a dying star in the Carrick system. Before it was shut down, it was used for experiments. Genetic manipulation, population control. If we can access its data archives, we will find all the evidence we need." Daesung called his crew together that night. They gathered in the small galley, the 3 humans and the massive void worm who barely fit in the space. Daesung explained what Hyunwoo had told him. He explained the plan. "It's a suicide mission," Bora said flatly. "Even if the station is abandoned, it will have automated defenses. And if we somehow get inside and steal the data, the Dominion will come after us with everything they have. They're already coming after us with everything they have, Taemin pointed out. True, Bo-Ra admitted. Dae-sung looked at each of them. I'm not going to order you to do this. This is beyond any job, beyond any contract. If you want to leave, I'll drop you off somewhere safe. You can disappear, start new lives. But I have to do this. I have to know the truth. Bo-Ra was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled that crooked smile of hers. Safe is boring. And besides, someone needs to keep this bucket of bolts flying while you're being heroic. Taemin nodded. I'm with you, Captain. All the way. Then we go to Carrix, Hyunwoo said. The journey took 3 days. They traveled through empty space, avoiding all the major shipping lanes and patrol routes. Taemin proved his worth as a navigator, finding paths through asteroid fields and around gravity wells that no sane pilot would attempt. The Iron Sparrow groaned and complained, but it held together. The Carrix system was a dead place. The star at its center was a red giant, bloated and dying, casting everything in a sickly crimson light. The research station orbited at the edge of the system, a dark silhouette against the dying sun. As they approached, Dae-sung could see it clearly. The station was massive, a sprawling complex of modules and docking bays, all of it dark and lifeless. But sensors showed that power was still running. The automated systems were still active. We're picking up defense turrets, Taemin reported, at least 20 of them scattered around the station's perimeter. Can we get past them? Dae-sung asked. Not in this ship, Bo-Ra said. One good hit and we're scrap metal. I will clear the way, Hyunwoo said. Before anyone could respond, the void worm moved to the airlock. Dae-sung followed him. You don't have to do this alone, Dae-sung said. I am the only one who can survive in the void without a ship, Hyunwoo replied. I will destroy the defenses. You will dock and retrieve the data. That is how we will succeed. Dae-sung wanted to argue, but he knew Hyunwoo was right. The void worm had powers they barely understood, abilities that let him move through space as easily as a fish through water. Be careful, Dae-sung said. Hyunwoo made a sound that might have been laughter. I have not been careful for a very long time, human. I do not intend to start now. The airlock opened and Hyunwoo launched himself into space. What followed was beautiful and terrible. Hyunwoo flew toward the station like a living missile, his body glowing with that inner fire. The automated turrets detected him and opened fire, filling the void with energy blasts and projectiles. But Hyunwoo was faster. He twisted and turned, his wings carrying him in patterns that seemed impossible. He reached the first turret and tore it from its mounting with his claws, then used it as a shield against the others. One by one, he destroyed, them moving from target to target with brutal efficiency. On the bridge, the crew watched in silence. Taemin's hands were white-knuckled on his console. Bo-Ra was muttering calculations under her breath, trying to plot their approach. Within 10 minutes, it was done. The last turret sparked and died, floating away in pieces. Hyunwoo circled the station once, checking for any remaining threats, then gave them the signal. Take us in, Dae-sung ordered. The Iron Sparrow moved forward carefully, docking with one of the station's airlocks. Dae-sung, Bo-Ra, and Taemin suited up and entered the station, leaving Hyunwoo to watch for any approaching ships. Inside the research station was a nightmare. The corridors were dark except for the emergency lighting, casting everything in a dim red glow. The air was cold and stale, but worse than the physical conditions was what they found in the laboratories. Examination tables with restraints, cages sized for humans, medical equipment stained with dried blood, and everywhere documents, reports on genetic experiments, on population control measures, on the effects of various toxins on human physiology. Bo-Ra picked up a datapad and read from it, her voice shaking. This one is about introducing sterility genes into human populations on colony worlds. They wanted to control our birth rate. Taemin found another room filled with tanks. Inside, the tanks were things that might have been human once but were twisted and changed by genetic manipulation. Failed experiments left to rot when the station was abandoned. Dae-sung felt sick. This was what the Dominion really thought of humanity. Not partners, not even slaves. Test subjects. Things to be experimented on and controlled. They found the main data archive in the heart of the station. Taemin worked quickly, downloading everything he could onto portable storage devices. There were hundreds of thousands of files, plans, reports, correspondence between Dominion officials. All of it damning. All of it proof. Got it, Taemin said finally. Everything's downloaded. They were halfway back to the ship when the alarm started blaring. Incoming vessels, Hyunwoo's voice spoke in Dae-sung's mind, urgent and sharp. Dominion fleet, large one. They must have been monitoring the station remotely. They ran. Through the dark corridors back to the airlock into the Iron Sparrow. Bora was at the controls before Dae-sung even finished sealing the airlock. How many ships? Dae-sung asked. Too many, Bora said. I count at least 15, including a dreadnought. A dreadnought, the largest, most powerful class of ship in the Dominion fleet. Nothing could stand against it. The Iron Sparrow would be destroyed in seconds. Through the view screen, Dae-sung could see them emerging from faster-than-light travel. Huge vessels bristling with weapons surrounding the station in a perfect net. There was no escape. Unless... Dae-sung looked at the data storage devices Taemin had clutched in his hands. Evidence. Proof. Everything they needed to expose the Dominion's lies. Can we transmit this data? He asked. Taemin looked up. Transmit it where? Everywhere, Dae-sung said. Every channel, every frequency, every network we can reach. Broadcast it to the entire sector. Bora understood immediately. If we're going to die anyway, we might as well make it count. Do it, Dae-sung ordered. Taemin's fingers flew across his console. I'm setting up a wideband transmission. It will take a few minutes to upload all the data. Outside, the Dominion fleet was closing in. The dreadnought powered up its main weapon, a massive cannon that could split a planet in half. Hyunwoo floated between the Iron Sparrow and the approaching fleet, his wings spread wide, his body glowing with power. I will buy you time, he said in Dae-sung's mind. No, Dae-sung said aloud. You can't fight them all. Watch me. And then Hyunwoo roared. The roar was not just sound. It was something primal and ancient, a declaration that echoed across space itself. On the bridge of the Iron Sparrow, the crew felt it vibrate through their bones, through the hull of the ship, through reality itself. It was the sound of defiance given voice. It was freedom made audible. It was a challenge thrown at the face of the galaxy's greatest power. Hyunwoo hung in space between the tiny freighter and the massive Dominion fleet. His wings spread impossibly wide, his body blazing with an inner fire that made him look like a newborn star. He was one being against 15 warships, including a dreadnought that could level cities. And he did not care. The dreadnought fired first. Its main cannon unleashed a beam of concentrated energy, bright enough to burn away the darkness of space. It was a weapon designed to destroy worlds, and it was aimed directly at Hyunwoo. The Void Worm did not dodge. Instead, he flew straight toward the blast, opening his jaws wide. And then, impossibly, he swallowed it. The energy beam disappeared into Hyunwoo's mouth like water down a drain. His body glowed brighter, scales shimmering with absorbed power. When he opened his jaws again, he released it back at the dreadnought, transformed and amplified a torrent of starfire that engulfed the massive ship's bow. Armor plating melted. Shields collapsed. The dreadnought's entire front section was consumed in flames that burned with impossible heat. The other ships opened fire then, all of them at once. Energy blasts and missiles filled the void, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But Hyunwoo was moving, his wings carrying him through the barrage with grace that seemed to mock physics itself. He crashed into the nearest cruiser, claws tearing through its hull like paper. He moved along its length, leaving destruction in his wake, then leaped to the next ship. Each movement was precise, economical, devastating. He was not just fighting. He was dancing, and his dance was death. On the Iron Sparrow, Taemin worked frantically at his console. Transmission at 40%, he called out. We need more time. I don't know how much more time we have, Bora said, watching the battle unfold on the view screen. This is insane. How is he doing that? Dae-sung could not answer. He could only watch as Hyunwoo fought an entire fleet single-handedly. The Void Worm was incredible, terrifying, beautiful. Every movement spoke of power held in check for too long, now finally unleashed. But even Hunwoo had limits. A lucky shot from one of the destroyers caught him in the wing. Energy seared through membrane and bone. Hunwoo roared in pain, his flight pattern faltering for just a moment. The Dominion fleet pressed their advantage. Ships surrounded him, firing from all sides. Hunwoo twisted and turned, trying to dodge, but there were too many. Another blast caught him in the side. Then another. "Transmission at 70%, Taemin said, his voice tight. Hunwoo was bleeding now. Daesung could see it through the view screen, dark fluid drifting in space around the void worm's wounded body. But still he fought. Still he roared his defiance. The dreadnought had recovered from the initial attack. Its main cannon was charging again, energy building to critical levels. This time it was aimed not at Hunwoo, but at the Iron Sparrow. "No!" Hyunwoo's voice thundered in Daesung's mind. The void worm turned, his injured wing straining, and flew directly into the path of the cannon. When the beam fired, Hunwoo met it head-on, his body positioned between the weapon and the ship he was protecting. The collision of energies was cataclysmic. Space itself seemed to bend and warp around the impact point. Hyunwoo's body absorbed the blast, his scales glowing white-hot, smoke and fire streaming from his wounds. But he held. He held his position, shielding the Iron Sparrow with his own body, even as the dreadnought's weapon tore him apart. "Transmission at 90%, Taemin said, tears streaming down his face. Daesung could not bear to watch, but he could not look away. Hunwoo was dying to give them time. Dying to protect 3 humans he had known for only a few weeks. Then something changed. The comm channels erupted with noise. Not from the Dominion fleet, but from everywhere else. Ships across the sector, stations, colonies, all of them receiving the data transmission, all of them seeing the truth. Daesung could hear fragments of it through the static, voices raised in shock and anger and disbelief. The evidence was spreading faster than light, faster than any weapon. The Dominion's lies were being exposed in real time, broadcast to millions of beings across dozens of worlds, and some of those beings were aboard the Dominion ships. On the bridge of one of the destroyers, a human officer looked at his screen in horror. He saw the genetic experiments, the population control measures, the plans to keep humanity subservient forever. He looked around at his fellow crew members, at the other humans serving the Dominion, and he made a choice. He powered down his weapons. On another ship, another human did the same. Then another. Then entire crews paralyzed by what they were seeing, unable to continue fighting when the truth of their enslavement had just been laid bare. The Dominion fleet's assault faltered. Ships that had been firing moments before went silent. The dreadnought's cannon stopped charging. Hunwoo, wounded and barely conscious, floated in space. His wings were torn, his scales cracked and bleeding, but he was alive. "The transmission," he asked weakly in Daesung's mind. "Did it succeed?" 100%, Taemin said, his voice breaking. "It's everywhere. The whole sector has it, maybe more." Through the view screen, they could see the Dominion fleet beginning to break apart, not from weapons, but from within. Ships were powering down, their human crews refusing orders. Some ships were turning away, retreating. Others just drifted as their crews tried to process what they had learned. The dreadnought hung in space, dark and silent. Whatever orders its commanders were trying to give, they were not being followed. "Get him inside," Daesung ordered. "Bora, open the cargo bay. Taemin, help me." They suited up and went outside, using magnetic boots to walk on the hull. Hunwoo was too large to fit through any airlock, but the cargo bay doors were big enough. Together they guided the wounded void worm inside. When the doors sealed and atmosphere returned, they removed their helmets. Hunwoo lay on the cargo bay floor, his breathing labored, his wounds still smoking. Bora ran for medical supplies, but Daesung knew human medicine would be useless for a being like this. He knelt beside Hunwoo's massive head and placed a hand on the void worm's scales. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You saved us. You saved all of us." "I protected what was worth protecting," Hunwoo replied, his mental voice weak but steady. "You gave me freedom. I gave you truth. It was a fair trade. You're going to be okay," Daesung said. "You have to be okay." "I am a void worm," Hunwoo said, and there was amusement in his voice despite the pain. "We do not die easily. I will heal. It will take time, but I will heal." Over the next hours, as the Iron Sparrow drifted in the debris field of the Dominion Research Station, the galaxy changed. The data transmission spread like wildfire. Every human colony, every station, every ship received it. The evidence was undeniable. The Dominion had been lying for generations, manipulating and controlling humanity while pretending to be allies. On Earth, the oldest human colony, riots broke out. On Mars, the colonial government declared independence. On stations throughout human space, crews seized control from Dominion overseers. It was not a coordinated rebellion. It was spontaneous, chaotic, messy, but it was real. Other species, those who had also been subjugated by the Dominion, saw what was happening and joined in. The Dominion's empire, built on lies and control, began to crumble. In the weeks that followed, Daesung and his crew became symbols of the resistance. They had not planned it, had not wanted it, but it happened anyway. The story of the human captain who freed a void worm and exposed the Dominion's greatest secrets spread across the galaxy. Some called them heroes. Others called them terrorists. Daesung did not care about either label. He only cared about one thing. Humanity was finally free to choose its own path. The Iron Sparrow became a rallying point for rebels and refugees. Bora found herself training other engineers, teaching them how to modify Dominion technology and remove the hidden controls. Taemin became a coordinator, connecting different resistance cells across the sector. And Hyunwoo, once he healed, became a guardian once more. He flew between human colonies, offering protection and support. Where he appeared, Dominion forces retreated. His presence alone was enough to turn the tide of battles. But despite all the chaos and change, Daesung still found time to talk with Hyunwoo in the quiet hours. They would sit in the cargo hold, human and dragon, and discuss the future. "What will your people do now?" Hyunwoo asked one night. "I don't know," Daesung admitted. "We've never been truly free before. We'll make mistakes. We'll stumble. But we'll learn." "That is all anyone can ask," Hyunwoo said. "Freedom is not easy. It requires work, sacrifice, constant vigilance, but it is worth it always. Will you stay with us?" Daesung asked. Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. "For a time, yes. Your people are young in their freedom. They will need guidance, protection, but eventually I must search for others of my kind. If any still survive, they deserve to know that the galaxy is changing." "I understand," Daesung said. "But not yet," Hyunwoo added. "There is still work to do. The Dominion has not fallen completely. They will fight to reclaim what they have lost, and when they do, I will stand with humanity." Daesung smiled. "We're lucky to have you." "No," Hyunwoo said. "I am lucky to have found you. You could have delivered me to my death. Instead, you chose to listen. You chose to care. That choice changed everything." Months passed. The rebellion grew stronger. Human ships, freed from Dominion control, began exploring routes that had been forbidden. Human scientists, no longer dependent on Dominion technology, started making discoveries. Slowly, carefully, humanity began to realize its true potential. The Dominion tried to fight back, but their forces were divided and demoralized. Too many of their human soldiers had defected. Too many other species had joined the rebellion. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries found itself unable to maintain control. One day, Daesung received a message on a secure channel. It was from Earth's new government, one elected by humans for humans. "Captain Daesung," the message said, "we want to offer you a position as an ambassador. Your actions sparked this revolution. Your voice carries weight. We need people like you to help build our new future." Daesung read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it. "Not interested?" Bora asked, watching over his shoulder. "I'm a freighter captain," Daesung said. "I carry cargo, I fly through space, I try not to die. That's what I'm good at." "You're also the man who freed a dragon and changed the galaxy," Bora pointed out. "That was an accident," Daesung said. Bora laughed. "The best things usually are." The Iron Sparrow continued its journey through the stars. Sometimes they carried cargo. Sometimes they carried refugees. Sometimes they just flew, exploring the vast reaches of space that humanity had never been allowed to see. And always Hyunwoo flew with them. Not a prisoner, not cargo, but a friend and guardian. His wings cut through the void, his roar echoed across the darkness, and wherever he went, people remembered. They remembered that freedom was worth fighting for. They remembered that one voice of defiance could shatter empires. They remembered that even the smallest ship could change the course of history. And they remembered the story of a shackled dragon dragged to a cowboy's ship, whose roar shattered all doubts and woke a galaxy from its sleep. The story of freedom found in the most unlikely place. The story of Hyunwoo and Daesung, and the revolution they never planned but could not avoid. The story that would be told for generations to come, a reminder that even in the darkest times hope could still take wing.